Decades of experience and the latest technology come together here at Skip White Performance to craft some of the finest rotating assemblies on the market. Whether you're circle, dirt, or drag strip racing and need a high performance assembly, or finally getting around to finishing your street rod, knowing what goes into every rotating assembly gives you the confidence you're getting the best quality and value on the market.
We take balancing to the next level here at Skip White Performance.
We try to set a standard that nobody else sets.
Skip's dedication to quality is really the mainstay of his company.
And it all starts with using the right parts. First, Scat crankshafts, designed for high strength and fatigue resistance. Each is brand new, blemish-free, and factory sealed. All Scat rods are made from forged 4340 alloy.
We find Scat crankshafts an excellent product, and we find the rods to be outstanding.
As for the pistons, Skip White doesn't mess around. They use custom-made Wiseco, fully forged, high-performance pistons made from 2618 aircraft alloy. Perfect for street rods as well as medium to upper-level drag racing. Now add in Hastings or Molly high-performance rings, King main and rod bearings, Pro Street harmonic damper, Cleveite bearings, and a heavy-duty SFI certified flex plate. One of the big reasons why Skip White Performance stays ahead of the pack, they have the best equipment. In fact, while we were filming, the owner of CWT, Randy Neal, rolled up in a truck with 3 brand new CWT 5500 balancers to replace the other 3, which were actually just a few years old. As you'll see throughout this video, we were able to capture both the old and the new balancers in action to show you that the process is the same here at Skip White, but the technology is always getting better.
With Skip's application here, he's taking all the technology, whether it's a Formula One capable or, again, a novice, but he's making sure that he can apply all of our technology direct to an end product that has a high quality standard. By him investing back into this kind of technology, he maintains a very high standard. Now, it does separate him from everybody else.
Having state-of-the-art equipment allows us to do the job perfectly.
As the product changes, as racing changes, it used to be engines were going 5, 6, 7,000 RPM. We got some of these guys going 11.5, 12,000 RPM. So the standards have changed. No worries. We can actually take this down to 0.001 gram millimeter of unbalance.
A typical rotating assembly balance can take up to 2 hours, a critical part to the process and overall longevity and performance of your engine.
Not only are you balancing the crankshaft, you're also balancing the rods, you're also balancing each piston to make sure they're what they're supposed to be within tolerance. Our tolerances are 2.5 grams.
And thanks to the precision of the CWT balancers, you can upgrade your rotating assembly order to a race level balance.
Should a person choose our race balance, we bring our tolerances down to less than 0.5 gram on the rods, the pistons, and the final balance. It's an excellent value.
So many times they'll go out and they'll buy the best they can buy of this product, that product, and put it together, and then they say, well, I want my engine right. It's not actually what you're putting in it, it's the actual communication of all those parts working together.
Let's show you the balance process in action with Kenny on this rotating assembly for a 454.
We weigh the entire rod, weigh the big end and the little end. Whichever end is off, then that's where we take the weight from.
If any of the rods need further modification, this state-of-the-art rod cutting machine trims everything to exact specs. And you can upgrade your assembly with Skip White's rod proofing package to include rod sizing with their Sun & Machine to ensure perfect sizing on both ends, and rod to cam clearancing on their vertical milling machine, a must for anyone building an engine without the skill or help of a machine shop.
Next step, we go into weighing all of our pistons.
In this case, Kenny discovers one of the pistons is not within tolerance.
To be within 2.5 grams, this needs at least 0.5 gram out of it.
Once everything is within spec, your information is input into the CWT balancer system.
He has a histogram. He can recall that anytime. I don't care where this crank ends up or what the engine is assigned, he can recall it and say, hey, this is it, these are the parts we used, this is the tolerances that were used as a document.
Next, he puts in the information on the rods, then inserts, weighs 2/2 of the bearing and adds the piston weight, the wrist pin, and now the locks, retainers, and finally the rings.
1117.5. So that's what our bob weight is that we're going to be making up to put on our crankshaft.
Now that the pistons and rods are done, they go into the shipping box along with the rings, inserts, and bearings. Now it's time to move to the critical step of balancing the crankshaft.
This is a 168 flex plate. It's going to be used on our balancing. Every crank at Skip White Performance gets a dowel pin.
A quick lube to protect the crank while spinning, and the crank is ready to go on the balancer.
This being an externally balanced crankshaft, so therefore we have to install the flex plate and a damper.
Next are the key weights and then the timing gear.
We always check and make sure our oil galleys in our crankshaft are lined up on our V-sets the way they ought to be. Sometimes we have to move because the oil, when they drill the crankshaft for the oil galley, they're not always in the same place. Now we can start making up our bob weights. We make 8 of these up identically. This is our reciprocating weight.
With the help of a positioning fork, each bob weight is placed on the crankshaft.
We make sure our crankshaft's rolled to top dead center on each rod throw.
The bob weight card is printed, and now it's time to balance the crankshaft.
First spin will be on 500 RPM. And now we've got our crank marked where it should be drilled. 3 in the front, 3 in the rear. We've got to protect our main journals from our shavings. So let's start with our first hole. Now we're going to respin to see what we've taken out. The rear come up to 1.58 grams, the front 0.90 grams. So we're now in tolerance.
And the final step, deburring, where the drill pulls the metal out to make sure you don't get cut. If you order a crank polish, the 2 and sometimes 3-step process brings the RA numbers down to the single-digit range. Your crankshaft is repackaged and added to your shipping box and ready to be sent right to your door.
The hard work is done. It's up to you to put it together and go have fun.
The customer who buys the engine can feel like he got the same thing as a Formula One guy, and that's pretty much the higher part of the food chain in engines.
Skip White Performance, the best street rod engines on the road and track for the best price and value. Give the team a call or visit skipwhiteperformance.com.